Hey, what's up, guys? The topic of today's video is something I came up with called Theyology. I call it Theyology. So it's a new thing. It's the study of they, or them. There's a group among us, or, kind of within our realm, who everyone refers to as they or them. Like they know how to do it. They're not us, it's them. It's them and us. We are one group. Within our group, I mean, of course, we're all divided up, but there's a we and then there's a they. And whenever there's something that the we don't know how it's done, I say, well, they know how to do it. They figured out how to go to the moon. They figured out how to build pyramids. They know how electricity works and how to bring it to us. They know the distance of stars. How do they know that? Well, they have machines that can tell them that. Um, what else? I can keep this list just keeps going. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. They know a lot. They know how to do everything. Who are they though? So um I'm gonna what I'm suggesting, what I'm putting forward in this video is that things we take for granted, things in our everyday world that we use and see every day did not originate with man. They came from this other group may be men, but they have access to means of production, creation, bringing things into existence that we don't have. And it's a method that's beyond what we can imagine or what we're taught is possible. It's not impossible, or else it couldn't happen, but they sure know what the heck they're doing and how to do it. We don't. um Before I ramble too much, I'm just going to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to focus. There's a lot of things I could focus, but to make it simple, um, I'm going to, and easy for everyone to understand, I'm going to have us focus on the screw, a simple screw. It's something, and I like the screw because it goes back in time. They've been around for ages. Um, Without a screw, you can't have the industrial age. You can't have any machines. You can't have anything that's like mechanical. And the thing is, there are things people can make by hand, and then there are things that machines can make. But what's the in between? Where was the step? How did we go from making things by hand out of what we could find in our environment, dirt, rocks, wood, metal, and how were we able to cast them, carve them into perfectly shaped objects that can work as components in machines, like a screw? And this is a continuation of another video I did. But like I said in that video, I am somewhat of an artist and a sculptor. I can, I know that there's things I can sculpt by hand, and there's things that I just can't, and nobody can. I don't care how good they are. Michelangelo can't carve, whittle a screw out of a stone or out of any material you give him. Um, he can't do it by hand. It, you know, it's just not possible for human beings without fingers and our abilities. And we just can't. It can't be done. Um, so I'm just gonna let's see. I guess I'll just start with the first. Let's see here. I'm just doing this video on the fly, guys. So okay. I know where I'm gonna start. I want you guys listen to and I'm no expert in this field of machinery, but there's people who are. But I can sniff out things that don't add up. Stories that don't make sense, and if it don't make sense, it ain't true, man. It's gotta make sense. So let's listen to what this guy says. You guys can watch this whole video. It's called "A Brief History of the Screw" by Mike Morsici. Okay, check it out.
Screws started to be used as fasteners in the 16th century. but even when they came about, they still weren't widely used because they were difficult to make, since they had to be tediously filed by hand. Making internal threads for nuts was even more difficult. So nails and pins remained the preferred method for a while because they were still cheaper and easier to produce. And that finally all changed at the end of the 18th century when Henry Moseley invented the screw cutting lathe. This allowed for screws to be mass-produced with precision threads. And it's a little hard to see here, but one of the primary components of the lathe, which is right here under the highlight, is actually a long screw. We'll talk about ironic. A screw is required to make more screws.
All right, so he doesn't get too into that, but that's where I take over. This guy, oh man, hold on, lose my mouse there. Okay, right there. He likes to know how. I like to know why and how, I guess. Well, whatever. I can't put that part into words right now, but he passed by something I find very interesting. So, in order to make a screw, you need a screw lathe. But the problem is, or not a problem for him, but a problem for me, is where did this screw come from? Because in order to produce screws that can work in machines, for them to work in machines means that these angles of the ridges of those screws, the angle of it and the height of it, the width, has to be exactly perfect. Okay. So once you have the master screw, you can pump out other screws, but he doesn't explain where that screw came from. Okay. Henry Maudslay made that, and there's a couple other guys who made something before him. I don't get too into all the history. I have some stuff from them later in this video, but anyway, that's the mystery. Where did this screw come from? If this is the first machine that was made to build screws, and for it to work requires one perfect master screw, okay, was that screw made before there was a machine to make it, man? You know what I'm saying? It sounds dumb, but I'm taking a chance here. And if any of you guys have the answer, that's great. Post it in the comments, and I'll read it. I'll read it, and I'll make a video about how I was wrong. I mention your name, or I won't have to. I don't have to. I won't mention your name if you don't want me to. It doesn't matter. But I might be wrong here. But so far, I've researched it, and this is a mystery, man. I haven't spent no 1,000 hours researching it, but there's no answer so far. I've spent maybe a couple hours. Let's see what I have first here. Okay, so this is from Practical Machinist. I started researching a little. Again, I don't understand a lot of this stuff these guys are talking about, but it's a back and forth between other machinists. I guess it's like a little website they can go to compare notes. Okay, so look at what this one guy says. Go over here. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me read it. Okay, here. So there's a guy called Asquith Diamond, and it says, I'll read it straight off my own screen so I don't miss anything. The mind boggles at the difficulty in manually cold forming threads like that in 5/8 inch diameter bar, and clearly split dies would be beneficial, nay, essential. Okay. I mentioned having previously posted something about the producing threads in iron bars. Here's the article of interest. So he keeps going, but and again, man, I can't really keep up with these guys. They're speaking another language. They're machinists. I know a little bit about the dye. It doesn't mean like a color. It has to do with the threads. It's like an existing pattern for the thread that they can use to produce other thread, the dye. But what caught my eye is that he says right here, oh man, he says himself, oh, okay, maybe I need to read this whole part. I have looked closely at the threads on my screws to see if I can glean any more information. I don't think I can. I can see localized defects in the threads, and on one flank of the thread there is what looks like a severe, I'm going to read off the computer, a severe galling which has been partially smeared over the thread forming process. I could see no elongated stringers, in which perhaps points to merit of threading in that way. The mind boggles at the difficulty in manually cold forming threads like in 5-inch bar, including split, blah, blah, blah. The mind boggles. He's telling you in his own words about the same thing I'm saying. Where did this master screw come from? They had to make it by hand. His mind is boggled, which means it doesn't make sense. It's impossible. Well, he doesn't have an answer for it, guys, boys and girls. He doesn't know. You can look up the word boggled, mind boggled. He doesn't know. He didn't explain it. He's wondering about it, just like you and me. How is a perfect master screw whittled by hand? Let's see what's next. Anyway, just to see what we're talking about here. You can't make that. I don't care how good of a sculptor you are. Some screws, machine screws. Okay, it can be done by machine, but where the hell did the master screw come from that made that? It has to have been made by hand somewhere along the line, and no one, as far as I see, has an answer how you make a perfect screw by hand. And like I was saying before, let me find this other. Okay, that I don't want to mess up everything I pulled up. Okay, this is the sculpture by Michelangelo, the Pieta. It's regarded as one of the most beautiful sculptures in the world. This can be done by hand. Okay, but you can do these things by hand, but because it doesn't matter if that nose or eyebrow or chin or the lips are just a little bit off. It still looks good. It looks like a human face. There's some area of error where it won't look bad or like a cartoon. It fools the eye. It looks like a real face. But when it comes to making a screw, no, you don't have that kind of grace. You don't have that kind of room for mistake. If it's not perfect, it ain't working. Period. Okay, let me see. What do I have next? Okay, we looked at that. Oh, and then go ahead. Google ancient handmade screws. I knew they existed. They must have existed because the video we listened to earlier, he said that they did. But surprise, surprise, you can't find one. This is not handmade. You can search for yourself. All these are machine-made screws. They're not handmade. Sometimes they sell them. There's some of these are like for sale. Vintage handmade wooden. I'm talking about, it's hard to find it. Like this thing. It's not a screw. I don't really know what that is. It says it's handmade. That's not handmade. 19th century French Nickel. I don't know what that is. Used on eBay. See, somebody's trying to sell this stuff. So I was expecting to see some kind of crude looking screws. And I think I used to, a while back when I did the same search, I found some. This time, no. There's some crude looking nails, People do things by hand. I mean, that's how it looks. It has a look. It's kind of lumpy and bumpy. Kind of crooked, That's what you can do by hand, unless you're a very skilled artist, then you can do like organic things, but you can't do stuff that looks like that, like that. You're not making that by hand. I don't even know what that thing is, but you see what I'm saying? You're making that by hand. Let me see what's next. So We inherited these things. These things were given to, okay, let's see what okay, this is another, as I researched it, this is Grace's Guide to British Industrial History, more about machines. And what caught my eye is the third point here. I'll just kind of film it so you guys can read it later. I'm going to read it right off the screen. It says, cutting the thread with the workpiece held in a 3-jaw chuck. Cutters held in a frame were closed in on the blank, and the frame was traversed by a master screw. The operation was repeated until the screw was successfully formed. So they're telling you they're using a master screw to create other screws. And again, and these is the guys I was talking about who aren't Henry Maudslay. There's the Wyatt brothers developed a screw cutting lathe apparently before Henry Maudslay. There was a Job and James Wyatt. I think that's their names. William Wyatt. Job and William Wyatt. Again, the master screw. Right there. Where did it go? It's right in front of me. I don't see it there. Yeah. Okay. So you see what I'm getting at here. It's a mystery. And I've debated a handful of guys about this subject on guys who subscribe to my channel and other people. They act smart at first, but when I ask them to explain to me how the master screw was made, they go away. They just drop out of the debate, man. All of a sudden, what's this? I don't even know why. Okay, we listened to this guy. Again, watch this video. Mike Moreschi, Brief History of the Screw. He's the one that told you that about how ironic. There's a master screw within the machine that creates the screw. He doesn't get into where the hell that master screw came from, though. That's what I'm getting into. Okay, we saw that already. Let's see what's last. And again, Henry Maudslay. So that's that. The video is kind of long enough, longer than I like to go. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts about this. Again, there's that master screw. Where did it come from? You ain't whittling that by hand, boys. And nobody has an answer. I'd like someone to step up and teach me a little about Theyology, the study of them. And I'd like to know how they make the screw by hand before any machines were around to make the screw.